Okay, on this December cold evening, welcome to this event, Dementia Awareness. Firstly, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's event, organized by Deafly Sports Club and London East Muslim Association, and we're going to cover awareness amongst dementia. I've got an expert, Mdad Rahman, MBE. He's a dementia friend, and he's going to tell us more about what dementia is. So I'll try not to steal his thunder or try and explain what dementia is. So before we start, I'd just like to welcome Muhammad Ali, who's the chairman of Deafly Sports Club, who's the main organizers of today's event, to just welcome everyone to today's event. Ali Bhai.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Deafly Sports Club and London Muslim Association's Sisters Group has organized this program. We would like to welcome on behalf of the both group. I'm not going to say much about the dementia because they are Imdad Rahman MBE is here. He's going to go through this awareness project, which is very, very, I think is very helpful, and it's going to be really fruitful for everyone. I'd just like to mention a few things about Deafly Sports Club, the activities we do. I'm sure most of you are aware that we do a walk and talk and jogging session every weekend. And we have Bob and Brenda here, they are the witness. We do it regular basis, not that true? So yeah, and we have football, adults footballs, and dads and lads football as well every weekend. Takes place Sunday, and also we have a sister Arabic groups sessions takes place here at this Hedgecote Community Centre. Sisters are here. Sister Noor is here, and Sister Asarul is here, and Sister Shanara sister. Sorry, apology. Shanara here. If you want to know more about these sessions, you can talk to them, and they will give you more information about it. They are in charge of these sessions. Also, we have Thursday adults football session runs every Thursday. So we have a number of activities, and I will invite everyone to join. Deafly Sports is free of charge. There's no fees or anything like that, but there is a small fee if you come to the sessions where we need to hire the venues and take these activities there. So anyway, for further information, you can talk to the relevant people here. So once again, I'm not going to take much time because we are all short of time. Thank you very much for coming, and enjoy the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali Bhai, for the warm welcome for everyone. Just to give you a little bit background of London East Muslim Association, Apni Women's Group, who have come together with Deafly Sports Club to organize today's event. The Apni Women's Group of the London East Muslim Association is coming together for local women to support local causes. They also work with other local, national and international charities to support and assist in their charitable activities. They offer mental and psychological support to allow other women in the community to come and discuss issues and provide support to those in need. Recently, they've been involved in the local community, helping the Manor Junior School, raising over £1,000 towards the playground refurbishment, in particular holding food and bake sales. Along with local projects, they're involved in a number of fundraising activities, And on a more local level, they work with Salvation Army to donate food and clothing to London's homeless, who are particularly in need during the winter months. And of course, today they're working with Leftly Sports Club to bring this dementia awareness session for us all in the Ashcote Community Centre. They also work towards breaking down barriers amongst local communities and work with both Muslims and non-Muslims to build a better environment for all, regardless of race, religion, and backgrounds. They have weekly circles where they meet up to take lessons from the Quran and invite other women to join them. And the sisters are here today. If any sisters are interested, then they can approach them after the event. So without further ado, I'll just explain quickly. There's only 3 other speakers tonight. Firstly, we're going to hear from a life coach. His name is Randall. We'll call him Randall, the life coach, if that makes sense. You have to go with my jokes as well. He used to be a police officer, but he's now a life coach, and he's just going to take about 10 minutes explaining what he does and his experience of encountering people with dementia. We'll then have Emdad Rahman, who's going to cover the main session of what dementia is, and you've got the papers in front of you with some questions, and he's going to play some games or something with us and tell you what the answers are. And then we've got a local sister who is a consultant with the NHS, Dr. Noor Jahan, and she's going to speak about her experience in terms of the medical world. So can I ask Randall, the life coach, to come and share his story?
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much to my former colleague Anne Watt for inviting me down to say a few words. Yes, Randall Porter, the life coach, that felt good hearing that, because up until last Thursday, it was Randall Porter, the police detective. But what I'm going to do tonight is, you might well be asking, well, why is a life coach here talking about dementia? Well, my niche area within life coaching, which is a generic term, will be health and wellness. So I'll be a health and wellness coach. And I'll say a little bit more about that at the end of my very short presentation. But I'm going to share with you a couple of things tonight. Number one is what I call the Dementia 999 practicals. One of the last things I did as a police officer was I dealt with a missing person. My job was to track him down, and it was deemed high risk because obviously he had dementia and was very vulnerable because of that. So I'll say a little bit about that in a minute. I'm also going to ask a question, what about the carer? Because one of the issues that comes out of people with dementia is that somebody has to look after them, especially if the illness has progressed. And I've had some personal experience of being a carer, so just a little bit of personal sharing about what happened with me. And that will be it, really. So I'll move on. So, as I said, on Thursday this week, I was still a police detective, and yesterday was my very first day of retirement, and it does feel a little bit strange. But what I want to share with you initially is a real life case that I dealt with last month. It was a weekend on, and we had a missing person. A high-ranking police officer of inspector rank deemed this to be high risk, and I was assigned the task of finding this person. Now, I worked with the family, and by the way, is there anyone here called Yusuf? Good, because I'm borrowing that name. This isn't the actual name, but I'm borrowing that name for these purposes. So, Mr. Yusuf, my high-risk missing person, he was 78 years old, he had dementia, and what happened was, he was out shopping with his daughter, and he went for afternoon prayers, and then went missing. Uncharacteristically. So my job was to find him. So we tried to trace him through his Oyster cards. We got an idea of what his movements were. And we coordinated with the family. We fed information what his movements were. We found some CCTV with him on, and there was a group of 7 ladies. I call them Yusuf's angels. We fed information into them. They went to the train stations where we last saw him, travelled along the line, and they actually found him. So it was just a wonderful situation of police and family working together. Because this is an ongoing problem. People with dementia can wander off, get confused, get lost, and this increasingly happens, and it ties up a lot of police time. But what this situation brought about was some practicals. What if you have a family member that goes missing? What can you do? Well, this situation gave us a template. What Yusuf's Angels did, they set up a WhatsApp group. They started to coordinate information. They liaised with police. We fed into them information where he was last seen. They then dispatched people searching, and then finally they found Mr. Yusuf on a train, story with a happy ending. So if ever you're in a situation where you have a relative or you have a friend who has a family member with dementia, they go missing, you've now got a template of what you can do. Report it to the police immediately, because when somebody has got dementia, they're deemed to be high risk. And then use the technology available to you. Set up your WhatsApp groups, and you two can have the happy ending. So that's one practical example of what you can do should you be in that situation where you've got a loved one who's wandered off and you can't find them, they're missing. So, personal experience. 2015, I was at work. My wife had been unwell for a couple of years, and I knew she had a hospital experience, a doctor's appointment, and they finally put a name to the illness she had, which was amyloidosis. So my journey as a carer began because I had to take a career break to care for my wife. She went through chemotherapy for 7 months, and I was pretty much working, still a detective for a while before taking a career break, and then I was doing some driving work in between looking after my wife. We had lots of friends helping us, and I do remember one of my wife's friends, she came round, she brought to my wife a meal. She said, "Randall, your wife's been taken care of, but what about the carer?" Because I was running on adrenaline, if you like, for a while, but that can only sustain you for so long. And it's a question that we need to be asking. If we have people that we know with dementia, how is the person who's looking after them? How is the carer getting on? And I've got an acronym that I've developed, SEEC, 3 golden rules to look out for the people that you know who are caring for somebody with dementia. So S, seek to ask how your friend or extended family member is coping. Is there anything you can do to help? E, endeavour to be on the lookout for signs that your carer friend is struggling to cope. It can be a lonely place when you're solely responsible for caring for a loved one with ailing health. A problem shared is a problem halved. We can all share the load. Another E, enlist the help of others. Just as it takes a village to raise a child, the same can be applied to caring for others, be it recovering from illness or struggling with dementia as it degenerates. So that's just a couple of practical things. Hopefully that's been helpful to you. I'll just conclude by mentioning, as I said, it's Randall Porter now, the life coach. RandallPorter.com. I've left some cards on the tables on both rooms. I will be issuing 3 blogs, absolutely free of charge. All I need is, if you're interested in receiving helpful information, hints and tips on healthy lifestyle in such areas as diet and nutrition, managing chronic illness, just visit the website, click on the contact link, and when I start sending out my blogs, early part of next year, I'll include you. And as I say, it's absolutely free of charge. Okay, thank you very much for receiving me tonight. Hopefully that was of some use to you. Good night.
Thank you very much, Randall. We'll circulate the web address to everyone as well. That was very informative in terms of his life experience as a copper, who would I like to call it, but give him some respect because he's a detective. But now he's a life coach. Life coach sounds, Randall the life coach, that could be a brand. We should use that. Free of charge for me, obviously. Okay, so the next I want to introduce, or I don't need to introduce, everyone knows Imdad Rahman, MBE, patron of Lefty Sports Club. He's like a Superman, because if you follow Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, he's there all the time. He runs more marathons than I can count, and I'm walking to catch up with him, and I'm still struggling. But he's a great supporter of Lefty Sports Club. A very knowledgeable young man, because he's slightly younger than me. He's Hafiz of the Quran as well, so talented in all aspects. So over to you.
Good evening and Assalamu alaikum everybody. Thank you everybody for the great introduction. It does wonders for my ego. My name is Imdad. If anybody's got any questions at any time, please feel free to raise your arms, and I will do my best to answer any queries that you have. First and foremost, what we are talking about here is dementia today. So I need to clarify, we have got a doctor in the house. I myself am not medically qualified to offer any such advice. What I do is I raise awareness of issues related to dementia. Now, how did I become a dementia friend champion? So after today's session, everybody here will become a dementia friend. And after we've completed it, we'll take a group picture, which I will tweet out for those who are happy to join in, just to raise awareness, not only about dementia as well, but to display to the world how active we are as a community. This is a very, very active community. And just listening to some of the things I was saying before, even as a local, I'm not aware of, things like the work with the Salvation Army. I've got a huge passion for homelessness myself. There's sisters from this community and in Newark who contact me all the time. They raise phenomenal amount of food, and I take my car down to their house and they load the car up for me, and then I take it to places like the Salvation Army and Brockleback Homeless Lodge over there as well. And it's amazing what things from our community do. So what we're talking about here today is dementia friends and dementia. How did I become a dementia friend? I actually went to Lord's Cricket Ground to become a cricketer. So I'm obsessed with sports, which most of you may know already. So it's very difficult to get tickets for the Ashes or when England playing at home. So one of the ways that I would get into a sporting event is through volunteering. First of all, it combines two loves. Number one is I actually love volunteering. And second thing, I get to watch a sporting spectacle for free. So next year, Euro 2020, all the games at Wembley, I'll be inside the stadium, I'll have the best seat in the house, and I'll be volunteering as well, I'll be showing people to their seats, receiving them, etc. So it started off as a sporting event. I wanted to be a volunteer at the Ashes. I couldn't buy tickets, so I thought I'd volunteer there. When we went for our training, my trainer, they started off the training day with this exact session that we are involved in here. And what they said to us was, you are, as a volunteer, in a privileged position. Because of cricket being played during the week, it's not a 90-minute game. A test match can take place over 4 days. So it can start on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and it can go through the weekend, sometimes Sunday until Monday even. Now, during the weekdays, the people who attend cricket games during that time, they're usually older people. So it's not unusual sometimes when you're standing there like a volunteer steward and you see somebody walking around aimlessly, or somebody who seems a bit lost, or somebody who seems a bit confused. And I thought this was excellent because what they said to us was, you are frontline people. You may bump into somebody who's elderly, who's lost contact with somebody they're with, or they might have turned up. Things have taken a turn for the worse, and they just become disorientated by the occasion, by the crowd and everyone there, and they're lost. If you have awareness of dementia, you can actually help them. Hence, I became a trainer. So I did this session. And my trainer said to me, why don't you become a champion? We feel you might be quite good at it. So I went for a day's training to St. Catherine's, and they turned me into a champion, which means I go around all over the place delivering training sessions like this. So I've been to synagogues, mosques, banks, etc. In fact, in one session, I was delivering a session like this to Lloyd's TSB. And as we were talking, there's a glass door to my left, and I noticed an elderly gentleman. He kept on coming towards the door, and then he kept on taking 2 steps back. He looked very, very fearful. And I just want to plant that in your heads. I'll come back to that story later on, so you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. This session usually lasts 60 minutes, but I'm condensing it because I can see we actually, how long about what? Half an hour? 20 minutes? Half an hour maximum. So I'm going to condense it, just because I know everybody here is very bright and breezy. So I will pick on the most important parts here. So if I mention the word dementia, what springs to mind? So anyway, what springs to mind? If I said dementia to you now, what's the first word that comes to your mind? Older people. Anybody else? Does anybody want to join in? What is you can shout out if you want. Memory loss. Loss of memory. Behavioral change. Confused. So I've had, this is really good, I've had in my session people say deranged, crazy, knife-wielding, maniacal, all these. So unfortunately, our picture and our perspective of dementia is widely shaped by the media. We might deny it, but it's the absolute truth. Just as with a lot of things in our lives, the media, what it does is it influences our narrative, our understanding, awareness of dementia. So say, for example, I haven't watched EastEnders since the Olympics started in 2012. I remember it was the last episode I watched, and I remember it. But say you've got EastEnders and you watch EastEnders, and you've got a plot in there of somebody who's living with dementia. You're very unlikely to have a person who just goes to the pub and sits there quietly and goes home and smiles, and even when they have a bad moment, they might be. It wouldn't happen. What you would have is a plot line that involves that person attacking their neighbor, hiding bodies, attacking people. Because what happens is the media needs to make these stories sell. And because of this, people with dementia have had a really, really raw deal. So this is what we're trying to do. Through these awareness sessions, what we're trying to do is change the concept, the understanding of dementia. Like I said before, I can't take medical questions. But we do have a doctor in the house who might be able to help. But if you do have any pressing queries, I can't take them. I'm not allowed to make any medical comments or any analysis, etc. on this. Now, what you have in front of you, I'm hoping you've got pens so you can share it. If you don't have a pen, just try and guess. What I'm going to do is we're going to talk about 5 key messages when we talk about dementia. Does anybody need pens? Alpha will hand out some pens if you need to. So what we're going to do is we're going to play bingo. Whoever gets a line first, they can get. Nusayba will actually go and get them some chocolates from the bank, and the winner will get 2 chocolates. So Nusayba, stay ready. That's your job now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read out some sentences. When I pause or I do this, there is a word on your sheet which needs to go there. I want you to circle it. If you get a horizontal line, please shout out, put your hand up and shout out line. Okay? So I'm going to start reading the statements now. When I pause, you need to circle the word you think that needs to go there. Number 1, dementia is not a natural part of. Okay, so that's a word. Yeah, so you circle it or highlight it. Number 2, dementia is caused by of the brain. So I'll repeat that. When I pause, that's your word. Dementia is caused by of the brain. Number 3, if I'm going too fast, please shout out. One common type of dementia is disease. Number 4, dementia is, which means the symptoms will gradually get worse. Number 5, Alzheimer's disease usually starts by affecting people's. Number 6, dementia is not just about. Number 7, dementia can also affect people's. Number 8, people with dementia can still effectively. Number 9, at any one time, 1 in people with over 65 has dementia. Number 10, it is possible to with dementia. Number 11, there's to the person than the dementia. And lastly, number 12, dementia, friends, is about turning understanding into. Right, most of you should have lines there. What we're going to do is recap. The most important thing about dementia, friends, and what we do in terms of awareness, is at least focusing on the 5 key messages. There is another sheet there. If we've got time at the end, we'll get you to do the sheet. If not, you can have that as a reference for yourselves. So what I'm going to do is just complete the sentences now. The first one I talked about was dementia is not a natural part of aging. Although we associate dementia with people who are elderly, we know people in their late 20s and mid 30s and late 30s who are living with dementia. It's not exclusively, it's rare to have it amongst younger people, but there are several cases of people in their 30s and late 20s who have dementia or living with dementia. Number 2, dementia is caused by diseases of the brain. So it is actually known as a disease, dementia. Just like you get lung disease, heart disease, and any other organ failure, dementia is a disease of the brain. The interesting thing is, I actually do some work volunteering with Alzheimer's Research UK. When I was doing an interview when I was running, they did a national ad campaign. And guess what? They picked me as one of the stars of the video. And they were interviewing me on a park bench. And I said, diseases of the brain. I said, no, we don't use terminology like that. So I was really surprised because my training with the Alzheimer's Society has taught me to use the actual word disease. So I found that quite interesting that 2 mainstream dementia charities, one uses the word hard-hitting dementia disease, and the other one says, no, we don't use disease. In some cases, I've just completed a text counseling. I've become a text counselor for crisis, so I had to study for 2 weeks. They agree with the Alzheimer's Society on that, saying when they are talking about health, or say, for example, I'm on the text line and somebody is suicidal and they're talking to me, they actually insist, and they've trained us up to be very, very brutally direct with the people. So say somebody texts me, I should very clearly say to that person, Jim, are you considering committing suicide? Some people might be like aghast, thinking, why are you talking about suicide? This man or this woman has just phoned you up. They need a bit of time. They need someone to lend a friendly ear and a smile. You're talking about suicide, but there is research that has proven that actually being direct, 8 times out of 10, being direct with people actually helps them. It is not a cause for tipping them over the hedge. The fact that you're actually quite straightforward with something actually gets people thinking. So there's a lot of research in that as well. Number 4, dementia is progressive, which means the symptoms will gradually get worse. Those of us here who are unfortunate and have got relatives or family members who have got dementia, you will understand the pain I'm describing here. That unfortunately, even now, with millions of pounds of research, dementia is a progressive disease. However, what I want to say to everybody in the room, whether you have got grandparents who might have dementia, you might have parents who may have dementia, you might have friends and family, you yourself might be showing symptoms, is this. Just because it's progressive, there is no reason why a person with dementia, whether they're in your study circle or whether they're your neighbors or whether they're in your women's group or whether they're in your sports group. So I'll give you an example. Left-Lee Sports Club is very likely, or the sisters Islamic circles are very likely to have people with dementia because they're inclusive groups. Big word here, inclusive, which means they are open for everybody. You don't have to be an Olympic champion to participate in the activities of Left-Lee Sport Club. You can be someone who's on a cane, a Zimmer frame, you can be on a wheelchair and participate. It doesn't matter how your mental capacity is, you can still sit in the sisters. So if the sisters group are learning Quranic verses or they're memorizing surahs. You have people there who have various different, they're in various different stages. As a teacher myself, I can testify to that myself. So what you do is you don't give up on people like that. In fact, our responsibility, which should be more enhanced after the training here today, should be that if we know somebody who's got dementia, we should make a huge effort to include them in things that we do. Because what I said about progressive, remember this, if a person who's got dementia has got love, attention, and tolerance in their lives, there is no reason why this person cannot live a normal, healthy, and happy life. The problems arise when we neglect. Remember this, everybody in this room, this is incumbent, a fard, an obligation upon each and every person in this room. When you see a person who has their mental faculties and capabilities are failing, if they have dementia, it is our responsibility to look after them, because in the future, it could be us who is affected by that. And as we all know, our life, we will get rewarded in life and in the hereafter, for those of you who believe, according to what we saw in the beginning. So I'll give you an example. There's this lady called Mary. I got paired up with her at a volunteering fair. She's now 70. It was her birthday 3 weeks ago, 79. She's got family, but I have never ever seen any family. This is the biggest disappointment. The most heartbreaking thing for me is she's got so many children and grandchildren. She's got typical Eastern lady, big family, big extended family. Since I've been volunteering with her in our old people's home for 1 year, I've not even heard of anybody telephone, let alone come in and see her. I'll give you an example. Mary got paired up with me because what these volunteering associations do, they try and pair you up with somebody who's compatible with you. She is blind, she's got dementia, severe dementia. She has really good days, she has really bad days. For me, the miracle has been she's never failed to recognize me, even when she's having a bad episode. She's blind in one eye, okay? She's losing sight rapidly. Not rapidly, but she's losing sight in her other eye. We got paired up because some egghead or nerd in the volunteering department there's a guy who likes crosswords, which means I love doing crosswords and word searches and crosswords. And she loves it. That's her, should we say, that's her greatest hobby. She can't really do much else. So we got paired up. So what I do is, once a week, 45 minutes, she's got dementia. If she's having I've never had a situation where I've got in there and the dementia's been so bad that she can't. Because don't forget, it still takes a level of skill and understanding and awareness to do that. Somebody who's got dementia, who's latter stage dementia, is going to find it very difficult to even do a simple crossword. And what I do is I just sit there. We have a little chat. We do a little selfie. And then what I do is I'm on her eyes. So if she's having a particularly bad day, she can still see. But when she gets really stuck, I can read out the words to her. I can give her a clue, this, that, the other. So I spend with her 20 minutes. The reason why I share this with you is I do it on my lunch break. In fact, I do a lot of volunteering on my lunch break. And this is one of the things which I do. When people say they don't have time to volunteer, I can categorically tell you right now, and I can tell you I'm the busiest person in this room. But I love making a difference through volunteering. No, I hate my pay job. Actually, I don't hate my pay job because I make a difference in that every single day. A majority of people actually don't think I've got a day job. In fact, some people sometimes when they turn up to appointments and they're getting told off by me in a professional capacity, they get shocked. They say, "Oh, sir, we saw you on Facebook. We thought you were a charity worker. We thought you were a volunteer." They actually don't realize I've got a day job. So what I explained to them is this. I said, well, actually, I've been doing it for 2 decades. So I'm not a spring chicken. I've been doing this job for 20 years. But in terms of the volunteering, because it's a passion, it's never a chore. We squeeze it in, we fit it in. So remember this, if you have anybody in your life who's got dementia or who is suffering as such, who is displayed, please put it on your agenda to support them. And when I say support them, you don't have to do much. It could be a smile, it could be just knocking on their door, checking on them, it could be offering them a cup of tea. Christmas time is a big one. There's so many people I see. I volunteer with the Watch Up Mission, with the Salvation Army at Christmas time, with Broken Bank Lodge, with Crisis. And the majority of people with dementia I've seen, the families have neglected them. And I'm going to use another big word here. I find it disgusting to think that there's families out there who are having the perfect Christmas with all their reindeer and all their, holly and all their Christmas lights. They've got parents and grandparents who are stuck in an old people's home, and they don't even have the decency to even make a telephone call to them on Christmas Day. That's really, really sad. That is really, really sad for me. So remember, another thing, I'm going to carry on with our messages. I've got about 8-9 minutes left. Dementia is not just about losing your memory. It can affect your perception. So I gave you the example of that gentleman I was talking to you about at the bank. What you need to do from this training is put yourself into the shoes of a person with dementia. Now, he kept on moving up to the door and jumping back. When I brought this to the attention of the manager went up to this gentleman and asked him, "Sir, are you okay?" It turned out that this gentleman's got dementia. I said to them, "I swear I didn't arrange this." You know what? It was like a live example during training. And then it turned out that he was coming towards the door. And you know the foot mat, before you come in when you wipe your feet? It was a grey piece of carpet there. And you know what? This gentleman was a war hero. So he's a big, tall guy. Even now, he's an imposing figure. And he fought in World War II. He's a celebrated figure. And he was talking to me and he says, "Oh, I fought in the war and I was very, very fit. But if I try and jump over, I might end up in the hole." And then it took me 2-3 minutes of talking to him until I realized that his dementia had affected his perception so much that this carpet looked like, a simple carpet to you and me, it looked like a black hole drill. So he was thinking, "I'm not fit enough. I need to go to the bank because I need to use the services there, or I need to withdraw money or my pension or my gyro or whatever it is." So he can't walk away because of he needs to go in because he needs to withdraw his money. But he's thinking, "Oh, if I fall a few inches short, I'm going 6 feet down under." Can you imagine the horror he's feeling at this present moment of time? Some people will actually laugh at something like that, think, "You know what, you're ridiculous. That's just a piece of carpet." In the 80s, we used to have this floral wallpaper. Do you remember? It used to be very fashionable, having this floral wallpaper, swish-wash designs on the carpet, things like that. A person who's got dementia, far-fetched dementia, their perception can be affected so badly, it looks like live snakes. Let me talk about the Bangladeshi or the Muslim community. Snakes are a no-no. I'm just using our community as an example. Snakes are a complete no-no. In fact, even from a Muslim perspective, there seem to be, I know from a Christian perspective they are as well, but there seem to be evil creatures, creatures of the grave, etc., etc. So a person who's got dementia, imagine they walk into a room and they're surrounded by floral wallpaper and can you imagine, they think they're in a nest of vipers. Can you imagine the horror this person is going through? I'm going to speed up now. There is more to the person than the dementia. Remember, when I say more to the person, we can see somebody with dementia sitting there in front of us. There was an old lady in a care home in Shropshire, and all she used to do all day, she'd lost her speech by then, all she used to do she used to tap away all day. She used to drive all the residents crazy and the staff crazy. One day she had a great niece from Australia, turned up Shropshire to come and see. She tracked her great aunt down. She came and saw her. She came from Australia. She tracked her down there, spent some time together. The senior warden asked her, "Do you mind if you ask a question?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "What does she?" You might not have a clue, but do you know why she taps away all the time? And the great niece explained. He said, "Well, actually, my great aunt was part of the team that cracked the Enigma code in World War II. My God. Can you imagine that old lady who's sitting there, tapping away, driving people crazy just by tapping away? Nobody knows her story. Now, can you imagine people's perception of her change? She became an absolute hero. The newspapers wanted to see her, the radio, TV station, because she's a war hero. She was part of the team that cracked the Enigma code, which actually led to the finish of World War II. So she's an absolute, she's a national hero, but nobody knows her story. So please remember, when you see somebody with dementia, don't judge them. Just remember, there is a story with every single person there. Like you look at the World Cup 1966 World Cup winning squad, Leffy Sports Club, this is a good analogy to use. Many of the 1966 World Cup winners, poor old Bobby Moore, never received a knighthood, but he died from cancer. But you've got quite a few of them now who've been suffering with dementia. It became a big issue, the World Cup heroes of 66, when they started getting dementia or being diagnosed with dementia, and it's put into effect. But people know their story. How many people out there whose stories people don't know? So I'm going to speed on a little bit more. And since it's Christmas, I'm going to use an analogy of a bookcase. I've got 6 minutes left, I can see. So the analogy of a bookcase, which I'm going to use, is this: you have a bookcase which is next to you. It's full with books. Now, each book represents a memory in your life. Okay, this is what you need to understand or this is to increase your awareness of dementia. If I vigorously shake this book, what will happen is there will be several books that fall out. Yes or no? Yeah? So if we grab it, we give it a good, unless we tip it over, that's different. Then you can say all the books will fall out. But if we shake it vigorously, side to side, a lot of books will fall out. So what happens is this: if you look at the shelves on the at my shoulder length, these are memories from, should we say, my childhood. Walking to school, mom dressing me up, my childhood friends, playing in the nursery. Then you've got the middle section where you think about your, should we say, your graduation from university, when people got married, things like that. And then at the bottom of the shelf, the books over there, they represent your breakfast, what you had for this morning, what you did an hour ago, what you did today at lunch, you did park run this morning. So what happens is when you shake dementia, what it does in essence is this. I'm using the bookcase as an analogy. It comes and it shakes your body vigorously. And what happens is you have a number of books falling out. So when you shake it vigorously, the top books fall out usually a lot more, middle. So it's not unusual for people to have gaps in their memory. So sometimes you will experience a situation where you're sitting there and an elderly gentleman, it's a bit like Uncle Albert in Only Fools and Horses, but he keeps on having a different ending to his war stories. But a person with dementia, people might not know this person's got dementia. They have a different ending to the story. They're not doing it on purpose. But by default, they become a figure of fun. You have people sitting there going, watch the ending, it's going to change us. We have it all the time. Oh, Father Q, her story is going to change. Khalama who's sitting there, her story is going to change. It's not her fault. She's not being devious. So nobody's going to be that silly that they're going to narrate the same story to the same group of people with different ending. Have we ever thought that this person might actually be affected by dementia? It's affecting their recollection. This is why a lot of the times people with dementia, they can instantly recall what they did when they were 6, 7 years of age, but they can't remember what they had for breakfast. I'm going to end with one more example for you all, and then I'm going to narrate one story. I'm going to be finished. These are very important things. I've really fast-tracked this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about a cup of tea, just to give you an example how things are very different for us and people who are. So if I ask the sisters here, have a think, and then I'll come back to you. How many steps would it take you to make a cup of tea? And the same with everybody on this time. I'm going to give you all 10 seconds to think, and then I want you to all start shouting out one by one how many steps it would take to make a cup of tea. So you've got 10 seconds. Right, 7 seconds it is. Done. Kalambai, how many steps? Huh? Yeah, so how many steps would you take? How many actions would you take to make a cup of tea? 3? Anyone else? Randall? 8? 7? 3 sisters? 8? 7? 6. So more or less we've got 8. Would you find it funny if I said that one of my participants in one of my workshops, they said 188 steps? Are they wrong or right? What do you reckon? Wrong or right? Or are they over the top?
That sounds like our.
They're absolutely right. They're absolutely right. Because for me, a cup of tea might be switch kettle on, pour water, add milk, or maybe add sugar. 4 steps. That might be it. For some people, it might be, I think about, I've just thought about a cup of tea. I stood up, I straightened my clothes, I walked towards the kitchen. That's 4 already. I turned the door handle. 5. I walked into the kitchen. I picked up the kettle. I emptied it. I filled it up with fresh water. I placed it down. I switched it on. I let it boil. Once it was boiling, I did my crossword. I took a few telephone calls. The reason why I've shared this with you is, again, this is to give you insight. When we're living with people who have dementia, whether they're parents, grandparents, neighbors, colleagues even, please be patient. What could be between 4 and 10 steps for you and me? So we've got police officers here. They will understand this perfectly. They will understand this perfectly because they know they're trained, or if not, they better be trained themselves very quickly because they understand that the level of patience that they must exert in a situation like this is very different from somebody who has full control of their faculties. So the reason why I share this exercise with you is a very simple exercise, just to give you some insights. What could take 5 steps with yourself? So after it might take 5 steps with you. Somebody you know, or somebody you bump into, or one of your colleagues at the hospital, it might take them 25 steps. So please remember, when you see someone who's struggling with their chores, please have some patience, because what an everyday task for you and me, which could be very, very simple, could be a really, really hard slog for example. One more example, Christmas fairy lights. We've got Christmas time now. If you buy them from Made in Taiwan ones, a cheap one from Barking Market or Chris Street Market, and you put them up, all you do is you see these lovely fairy lights, you know, or in some of the Pakistani mosques as well, you might get a bit of them as well, you know. And so you've got these fairy lights, very nice and pretty. Most of the lights are on. They're shining brightly. Each light, let's think of it in the context of dementia, each light represents a memory in your life. Most of them are shining brightly and they're intact. Some of the lights, remember Made in Taiwan, bit dodgy, some of the lights are flickering, which means some of your memories are coming and going. So his recollection of the last time he beat me in football changes. He keeps thinking he's won. He keeps thinking he's won. I'm saying, no, you were comprehensively beaten. Bless him. He was comprehensively beaten, but his recollection is very different. He's thinking he beat me. So it's flickering. And then occasionally he might say, you won, I won. So it's flickering. And some lights, like I said, these are cheap lights as well. Some lights have completely gone off, which means that the memory is completely back. So this is an example of dementia. What I will be doing, Nusaiba, can I have you here with an Akron? My volunteers, very, very helpful. What I will be doing is, the volunteers will be going around. You have actually qualified, each of you, because of the training. You take them round, Nusaiba, and give one to everybody, and one on this side. Nusaiba, this side, yeah? Good job. Please wear the badge with pride. If you want to take two, please take two, but take two for yourself, not for somebody else. Because people who haven't actually done this training like yourself, they don't, they can't wear. Me myself, I've got them, but I've actually earned myself a silver one as well, because I've trained over 3,000 people, which I'm very pleased about. Do you know, because of my passion, I've trained over, so they gave me a special silver one to say thank you for this as well. And I'll give you a story. The day I finished my training, just like you lot, on the way home from Lord's Cricket Ground back to my desk at Mulberry Place, whilst I was travelling, I had my badge on, which I was very proud. I had it on whilst I was on the train. 2 incidents happened. This old lady, she was looking at me. She was sitting where Upper was, which is a fair distance considering. She took an age to get up and walk. She was shuffling, not walking. She shuffled very, very slowly towards me. When she got up and she looked at me, I thought, this is going to be trouble. She's making a beeline straight for me. And I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? She's going to come out, she's going to hit me with a bearded fella with a hat. She's going to hit me and probably say something about me, and somebody's going to record it, and within an hour I'm going to be a YouTube star. People are going to be watching me getting beaten up by an old lady on the train all over the world. When she came near me, she came right up to me and she squared up. I thought, this was a hard match. She's going to headbutt me now in a minute. This is what she was saying. She was to headbutt me. And she looked right up at me, and I'm at this moment, I'm like this. Because I'm holding the pole, and I'm like this, and I'm thinking, and the people are looking at us. And then she looked at me and she said, thank you. And then she walked back. So it took a good 2-3 minutes to get there. By the time she got back, we were at a station, so she didn't sit down, she just walked away. She didn't even, as soon as she said thank you, she didn't even make any eye contact with me, she went back. At the next station, when the train started, believe it, then another station, I had a very similar situation when an old lady was standing there. She came up to me again, and I thought, this is deja vu. This is happening all over again. And for this time, I'm definitely getting beats. And she came up to me a bit faster, and she said, I'm having a really, really, really bad day. Thanks for understanding. She was staring at my badge. And do you know what happened at that moment? Then as soon as she did that, she turned her head straight away, and she went and sat, she went back to her seats. Because she's got dementia, her behaviors are very, very different. As soon as that happened, I saw a big flash from that side of the carriage. I saw a big flash, and I saw this gentleman coming towards me, apologizing. I thought, this is like the Clockwork Orange. I feel like I'm in an Alfred Hitchcock movie. All these things are happening, and it feels the Twilight Zone. It felt like the Twilight Zone. I think all these things are happening. This is a bit surreal. So he turned out to be a Kiwi from New Zealand and said, I really want to apologize, and if you want me, I'll delete you. What I've done is I've taken a picture because I've been watching you interact with these two ladies throughout, and I just needed to capture the picture, but obviously it's a bit disrespectful. But if I asked you, I would have lost the moment. If you want me, I will delete it. I'm from the Guardian newspaper, I'm a freelancer there, and I'd like to get you in touch with someone from my department, etc., etc. He took my number, we sorted everything, and somebody did contact me. What happened was the Guardian newspaper, they did a feature on my volunteering. It's online, you can actually search it. If you write Ebda Rahman, probably Dementia Friends, or something like that, Guardian, you can probably read it on there as well. The reason why I share this, for me, it's very, very inspiring. I want to finish on this note, just to say this. To make an impact, you don't need to put in hundreds of hours of your time. All you need to do is have an intention to do something very, very good. If you do that, the rest will follow suit. I hope you've all found this session very, very useful. It is actually a longer session. Anytime anybody wants me to come back and deliver a longer session, please feel free to get in touch with Lepley Sport Club. I am the patron of the club, so I'm always in constant contact with the management at the club as well. And I'll be happy to come along, whether it's here, whether it's at your events, or anywhere else for that matter. And when Dr. Nurjahan finishes her speech, those of us who are happy, please come to the front. I've got some posters here. I want to take a big group picture as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Amdad. Just stay, let's see if anyone's got any questions. I agree with everything except for the football bit. I always beat you in football. Right. Okay, any questions from you, anyone? Was everything so clear that people got it? Was that right?
Pretty much. If anybody would like to...
Sister, any questions from that side?
Sure. If anybody wants to become a Dementia Friend champion like myself, please come and see me. I'll be here for a very short period after Afa's finished talking, and I can advise you on how to become a champion just like myself. We will be delivering fantastic...
We got one question from Random.
Okay, Randall.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much for your talk. I found that quite inspiring. Just one question. Can I interview you for my blog, please?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's easy. He said he might be a YouTube star. I think he's a star already.
Absolutely. Sure.
Any other questions? To the next thing, Mike. Okay. I forgot to tell everyone the best was an MDAD with food coming afterwards as well. So it depends. Once you have the food, you see. Anyway, thank you very much on that. Thank you. Okay, so the last bit, I want to get, we're very proud of her. She's a local sister. She's a consultant. Dr. Nurjan, to say a few words.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening to everyone. It's lovely to see a lot of sisters on this side as well as brothers and neighbours in the community who have attended today. I'm not going to cover the things that Emdad has covered because I think he's here to motivate everyone here and make you all aware about dementia and try and promote awareness in the community. I just want to talk to you a bit more about the symptoms of dementia, how to recognise them, what to do if you notice something like this in a relative or a neighbour or someone you may know at work, and what to do if you notice these things. We all probably are aware of someone who is suffering from dementia, even if we're not aware of it, and we typically associate dementia with forgetting something, or even, as Emdad mentioned, thinking of someone who's going a bit crazy and nutty with their age. You should all understand that dementia is not really part of aging. It is a condition, it is a disease, as Emdad said. I also understand some of the sisters here don't quite understand the English, so I'm going to say a few things in Bengali as well. So, dementia, okay? It's not part of aging, and it's just a condition, a medical problem, okay? So usually, typically affects people who are older, but it can affect people who are younger. Even 40 years of your dementia, if you notice these symptoms, which I'm going to try, I'm just going to go broadly over symptoms. If you notice things like this, then you should go probably and make an appointment with your GP, and they can then do a more thorough assessment. So if you notice someone is having memory loss, being forgetful, either of their long-term memory or short-term memories, even or even recent symptom or dementia, okay? Or if you notice that they're forgetting to go somewhere and then they forget what they wait for, like to go shopping, they forget they wait to pick up some bread or after a milk. So they want to go to the shopping site or they forget their keys somewhere. These are signs of having some sort of memory loss. But dementia can have other symptoms. So you have to look out for other things like behavioural changes and not being quite appropriate. So some people you may notice that they're having inappropriate emotions. So then someone may have died and they're laughing, and that's inappropriate. And we may not understand that, but that may be a sign of dementia. So dementia has memory loss now. So sometimes there was any behavior or bodle. So even or sometimes it can even transform to depression. So those are the types of things. And some people even have schizophrenic symptoms as well. So there was any depression or symptom or even paranoid hallucination for rapidly. So these are the things to look out for. There are also other things, okay? So eventually it will affect their daily lives. They may not be able to go to the toilet, they may be incontinent. So these are all very important. And if you notice that there's a constellation of symptoms like this, you must go to the GP. And the GP will usually ask questions, and they will also do something called a mini mental test, okay? And it's very quick. Even young boys or test and it's really important because there are some things that are not dementia, but they mimic dementia. So they're reversible conditions. Some people have conditions that affect their thyroid gland, and it's a simple blood test. It's important that you go and see the GP so that they can exclude other things. Some people may have a brain tumor, so they may have to have a CT scan, okay? So show dementia takhena. Other things dementia lakhan GP blood test even brain scan. So this is important so that you can exclude the reversible causes of dementia. And also it's very important because if you can pick up dementia early, there are treatments and there are other methods that end up by kind of related to the whole, communicating with people, doing crosswords, keeping your brain active. These are important ways of trying to prevent dementia in its course, okay? And you can try and treat some of these conditions like Alzheimer's disease and vascular dementia. There's a wide spectrum of conditions that fall under dementia. So I'm just trying to be very brief about it, but these are the types of things that you need to be aware of. And the condition if there are any questions afterwards, I am here and I am able to talk to you about it. It's not my area of expertise, but I'm very willing to talk to you about the things that I do know about dementia. I get involved in the CT scans and the MRI scans, and part of that is looking at people who do have dementia, because there are certain things that we see on the brain scans that are typical for certain conditions. And also to exclude, like I said, brain tumors and large stroke and things like that. So if anybody wants to talk to me later, I think for me it's really, really important to be aware that it's not just the individual, but it's also the carers and the people around that are affected by this. And I think Randall mentioned it. So we really do need to be supportive of everyone who's in the community that is affected by this, whether it's your family member or a neighbour. And I think, I can see everyone here who's here is really, keen on doing that and promoting this awareness. It's like a lot of things, mental illness. I work in breast cancer. For me, breast cancer awareness is so important. This is another thing that's slowly emerging, and I think we're becoming more aware of it, just like mental illness. So hopefully if you have any other questions, you can come and find me later on and we can talk a bit more about it. But thank you very much for this opportunity as well.
Thank you, Sister Noor. Sister Noor, and also with other sister runs the aerobics in this hall. So if if sisters are interested, they can talk to her afterwards. Once we're getting the food ready, volunteers, someone will get the food ready. Food's ready. Where is it, mate? I can't see it. Special mention for Bob and Brenda. They're our local neighbors. Every Saturday, we bump into them in the park, and they force us to talk to them. We say hi, hello, and every time we have an event, they're here. So you're very welcome. Have double portion because there's less of us here today. So, any other last words or last questions or observations from anyone? No. Thank you for that as well. In your busy schedule, for making time and coming. I'm sure you're going somewhere. You're not going home, doing something else. Randall, the life coach, man. Thank you to Anwar Bhai for getting Randall for us, and then all the management committee, particularly Akhtar Bhai at the back. He's the silent hero for us. He does all the work behind the scenes. I'm just at the front talking. So for people, my name is Zoinul Abedin, hosting today's program. I should have said that from the beginning. I just assume people know me, but maybe they don't. Okay, thank you very much, and until next time, enjoy the food.
Thank you.
Thank you.